The BMF title is on the line between two of the biggest legends of the UFC in a long-awaited rematch. Max Holloway looks to defend his BMF title against Charles the Bronx Oliveira 11 years after their first encounter. In the co-main event, we have two highly sought-after middleweights in Caio Borralho and Reiner de Ritter looking to get back in the win column. And Raul Rosas Jr. gets a tough introduction to the top of the bantamweight division in a fight against Rob Font. What's up guys, my name is Santi and today we'll be breaking down the UFC 326 card from top to bottom. And stick around to the end of the video to get my full prediction of the main event. Quick reminder as well that I'm 17-4 in predictions on this channel. You guys already know the drill. We're going to be doing a speed round of predictions for the entire prelims. Starting off with Rodolfo Bellato versus Luke Fernandez. Luke Fernandez is an undefeated prospect with a very solid overall game. He's got some good boxing with a lot of power and has some decent wrestling too. Rodolfo, on the other hand, went to a draw with Jimmy Crute and had an Oscar-worthy performance against Paul Craig to get a no contest. I've got Luke Fernandez winning this by first round KO. Ju Sang-Yu versus Gaston Bolaños. Ju Sang-Yu is coming off a very tough loss against Daniel Santos, but I think this matchup is a very good bounce back fight for him. I think he learned from his mistakes in that fight and will come back with a vengeance. Bolaños is a decent striker. I just think that Ju Sang is in a better position to win this fight. I've got Ju Sang by decision. Rafael Tobias versus DR... How do I pronounce that? DR Nurgozai. DR is 0-2 in the UFC and lost both of those fights by submission. And watching the tape, they weren't pretty losses either. Tobias is okay on the feet and has a decent ground game. His submission game is solid and I think that will be more than enough for him to win this fight. I have Tobias winning by first round submission. Sumo Darji versus Jesus Aguilar. Sumo Darji is finally on a win streak after suffering 3 consecutive losses. Good for him. I think that ends with this fight. Call me crazy, but I'm going with the underdog on this fight. Jesus Aguilar has some pretty good submissions, especially his guillotine. And Sumo Darji has shown some weakness on the ground specifically, especially against submissions. Jesus is very tough and has never been knocked out. And I don't think Sumo Darji has the power to put him away either. I think Jesus is going to make this a very dirty fight and get the round 2 submission. Cody Durden versus... I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name. I'll call him Neum just for the sake of this segment. This is a gift wrap matchup for Neum. Cody has lost 5 out of his last 6 fights and is very susceptible to submissions specifically. Neum has shown great ability on the ground and is very effective with his submissions. I have him submitting Cody in the first round. Ricky Turcios versus Alberto Montes. I have been waiting on Alberto's debut ever since he made his appearance on Dana White's Contender Series, and I generally think that he has the ability to do great things in this division. Am I biased? Yes, absolutely. But I still think he's gonna win this fight though. Ricky's on a 2-fight losing streak and he's coming up in weight, going from bantamweight to featherweight. And it's not like he was a big bantamweight either. He'll be coming into this fight guns blazing. And against Alberto, that will cost him. His striking is super crisp and his ground game is very dangerous, especially that anaconda choke that he loves to use. If Ricky isn't careful, he will be caught by a submission, and that's exactly what I don't think will happen. Give me Alberto by round 2 submission. Dante Johnson versus Cody Brundage. Dante is one nasty motherfucker. He's got an 100% finish rate, and all 6 of his knockouts all came in the first round. And on the other side, we have Cody Brundage. Anybody who goes against Cody Brundage is being gifted a free matchup. I've got Dante winning this by knockout in the first round. And finally, we have Cody Garbrandt versus Zhao Long. I generally never know how to predict a Cody Garbrandt fight. He fights like the greatest fighter of all time in one fight and looks terrible in the next. Despite that, I do like the matchup that he has. He's going against someone who isn't known for having absurd power and still swings for the fences. Cody is a very slick boxer and I think we'll be able to point fight him to a decision. Probably a close 29-28 decision. Honestly, it entirely depends on how Cody shows up that night. Finally, we're now at the main card. And if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider dropping a like and subscribing. I'm trying to hit 100 subscribers before summer hits. So please, if you're enjoying yourself, consider dropping a subscription. It goes a very long way. Kicking off the main card, we have Bruno Ferreira versus Gregory Robocop Rodriguez. This is a very weird rematch that I don't think we necessarily needed, but it's one that I'm happy is still here. Bruno won the first time around by a very violent KO and has improved drastically since then. He's very fast and explosive, and against a guy like Robocop who has shown some difficulties with his chin, I think will benefit him greatly. Gregory is one tough son of a bitch, but if he goes against someone who hits as hard as Bruno, I don't know how much toughness is going to matter. I'm sure that Gregory is going to wrestle Bruno as much as he can, but I don't think that he'll have as much success on the ground either. Overall, I don't think it's a good matchup for RoboCop. He does always have that nuke option that could knock anyone out in the division. I just think that Bruno is on another trajectory at this point of their careers. Also, do not be surprised if this ends up being one of the best fights of the night. That being said, I don't think this fight goes outside of the second round. I see Bruno looking very sharp against Gregory and will hurt him early in the fight. Like I said before, Gregory will try to wrestle Bruno, but won't find as much success. Maybe he might get one takedown or two, but I just think that Bruno's going to get up from every single attempt. Like I said before, I'm sure that Greg will start to wrestle Bruno, but I don't think his ground game will be enough to put Bruno away. After a bit, Bruno will be able to get back up, and I believe he'll knock Greg out either in the first or second round. I love both guys. I don't want to see either of them lose in this fight, but I just believe that Bruno will be too much for Gregory Rodriguez once again. Fun fact, I even took a picture with Bruno Ferreira for when he came here to Montreal back in the UFC 315. Up next, we got Drew Dober versus Michael Johnson. Drew is finally out of his losing streak after beating Kyle Prepolek in a fight that honestly shouldn't have been as competitive as it was. And Michael Johnson is on a 3-fight win streak in 2026. Insane. Granted, last week we did see that the Zell Huber win was not as impressive as we once thought it was. This fight entirely depends on whose chin cracks first, so one person will be going down sooner or later. We saw last time around that Michael has not lost any of his speed, which is insane for an almost 40-year-old fighter, and Drew Dober does struggle with people that are vastly faster than him. But like in the King Green fight, Drew just seems to always find people's button unless he gets put away first. So for my official prediction, I think Michael starts off looking great, hitting Drew with big shots early, but towards the end of round 1, Drew will catch Michael with a massive shot that I believe will put him away. I just think that Michael's too old and is at the very end of his career. It was very nice to see him get back on a win streak, but I think this is the end of the road for him. In the feature fight of the night, we have Raul Rosas Jr. versus Rob Font. Raul Rosas finally gets an introduction to the top 15 against Rob Font, who by all means is not an easy matchup. Rob is getting up there in age and just suffered a pretty tough loss against David Martinez. And honestly, this matchup is not doing him any favors either. Raul is known for being very active in the first rounds with heavy control, looking for the submission early. But Rob is not an easy opponent to control and submit on the ground. In all honesty, I want to see Rob do very well in this fight, but I just don't think he's fast enough or strong enough to be able to stop Raul Rosas' onslaught. Raul has really worked on his gas tank as well, so I doubt that he'll even gas out in this fight. I can see a world where Raul gets a submission early and makes a statement, but if I were to trust my gut, I think Raul Rosas just takes this to a decision and wins a clear 29-28 decision. Rob's time at the top of the division was a lot of fun, but I just think it's time for the new generation to finally make its move. In the co-main event, we've got Caio Borralho versus Reiner de Ridder. Both fighters are coming back from a defeat and are in deep need of a bounce back win in this fight. Reiner de Ridder is coming off of a more difficult loss after quitting on the stool against Brendan Allen, and Caio lost to Nasruddin Imavov by decision. I think that stylistically, Caio should be winning this fight pretty clearly. I'm just not as confident as I once was about him before seeing all the holes in his game last time around. Reiner, on the other hand, was on an absolute tear before losing to Brendan Allen, but still showed that his game needed deep refining even before that fight. I'm gonna be stating the obvious. If this stays on the feet, Caio is gonna win this clearly. Reiner needs to take this fight to the ground, but even at that, I don't know how much success he'll find on the ground against Caio. Both guys are very well-rounded, but I think that Caio is just slightly better on the feet than Reiner is. And in a 3-round fight, I don't think Reiner will be able to put his patented pressure on Caio for very long. I don't see either guy getting finished. I think both of them are pretty durable, especially in a 3-round fight. So I believe this fight will be going to a decision. And I believe that Caio will win this fight pretty clearly, though I do see a world where Reiner finds a submission late. I just don't think that is very likely to happen. Main event time, and if you've made it this far, leave a comment about who you think is going to win the main event. For the title of the baddest motherfucker on the UFC, we've got Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway. They had fought 11 years ago and Max won that fight, but I wouldn't look too deeply into that fight considering it ended on a very weird circumstance. Max is officially a lightweight fighter and has shown that he belongs at the top of the division. It's just a shame that Ilya had the exact same idea as Max. And if Max really wants another shot at the title, he would still have to fight Ilya even though he last fought him at featherweight. Charles also had the opportunity to fight for the title against Ilya, but we all saw how that rolled out. I see the discourse online saying that Max is going to do whatever he wants to Charles, and I could not disagree more. Despite brutally losing to Ilya, he made a very quick turnaround against Gamrot and looked incredible. That being said, he cannot fight like that against Max. Max is one of the most technically sound fighters of the entire roster, let alone the division, the entire organization. Bulking up to lightweight has done wonders for his career, and he hits so much harder at this weight class too, but his chin is something that I'm slightly worried about. Charles needs to mix in the takedowns in this matchup and keep Max guessing the entire fight. Max hasn't fought many high-level wrestlers at featherweight, so I'm curious to see how he performs against someone like Charles Oliveira. And yes, Charles has fought strikers similar to Max, but none of them are as surgical as he is. And in those fights, Charles has been caught clean multiple times on the chin by these fighters. Except I trust his chin even less than I did back then. I believe that Max will be able to stuff the takedowns for the most part, and I also think that he'll be able to defend all the submission attempts coming from Charles. On the other hand, I don't think that Charles will be able to sustain the amount of damage that Max is going to be able to put on him. I think it will be a very competitive fight overall until it isn't. And I think that Max Holloway finds a knockout in the 3rd round and retains his BMF belt. We have come to the end of the video, and thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more sports content. Follow me on my socials and let me know what else you want to see on this channel in the near future. That's all for me today. I hope you guys have a good one. I'll be seeing you on the next one. Ciao.